Hi everybody, it's Steph from Stellium Astrology, and today I just wanted to show you how to create a Synastry chart on astro.com. I've currently got Archer on my lap. You can't see him, but he's just loving life, using me as a nice radiator because it's so chilly. So let's go into the menu with the three bars here on the left. If you're listening and you want to get your phone out, go to www.astro.com. If you've already got an account, just log into your account. If you don't have an account, I will link an episode where I tell you how to create an account. But for today, I'm going to assume you've already got an account. Go to My Astro, stored Astro data. There, Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish. Okay, so we'll go to extended chart selection because that's got lots of things that you can adapt and change in the chart. So there's Billie, and then if I go to Synastry chart, let's go for natal with partner outside. And then you select who you want. So I've selected Jesse Rutherford, who is her boyfriend. She's come out and announced that she is dating Jesse Rutherford. And then we can have a look. You can change it as much as you like to the house system that you want. You can change it to to have either the mean node, the true node. You can have all sorts of different options available here, lots of things for you to explore. You can choose whether or not you want to have the decans showing, what types of decans you want. You can have the part of fortune, you can have the descending node showing. Let's do that. You can have the 6 fixed stars. I'm going to add that for fun. Aspects to Chiron if we want. Can't be bothered. At the moment, I just want to show you what we're doing. So I'll just do that. And then you've got additional objects. You can add other bits and bobs if you want. And default settings. So you can set things that you set up as your default. I'm not going to bother doing all of that right now. So I've got the tropical zodiac selected because that's what I do. I'm a tropical astrologer. It's largely the astrology that we practice here in the West, and the geocentric chart because we are the center. Heliocentric is sun-centered, which is not what we practice, but it's interesting to look at nonetheless, but not today. So let's just show the chart and see what we've got here. So we have got Billie Eilish and Jesse Rutherford. The way that astro.com does it is that they do they've got lots of different chart layouts, so I'm sure I could have selected something. It's quite a good way to look at it, actually, to have a little look at this chart. So Billie Eilish's chart is in the middle. We've got her Pluto, which sits right up on the 10th house cusp with Venus on the other side, and then her midheaven, some very powerful and hugely attractive, hugely wealthy aspects there between Pluto and Venus, and moving along her sun, her south node, her Chiron, her Mercury, all moving through Neptune, Moon and Uranus, all in Aquarius. And then we have Mars, Lilith rising, and then her ascendant. How interesting that she has Lilith rising. I can't remember which setting I had for Lilith. I don't know if it tells me here. It doesn't. Anyway, so as you can see, she's got huge clusters of planets. So she's got a big stellium there in Sag at the top. And she's also got a stellium in Aquarius. I've written an article about Billie Eilish. I'll link that. But she's very interesting to follow as far as transits are concerned at the moment. Now she's got, this is just one way to look at the chart because we've got Jesse Rutherford's chart on the outside. Interestingly, they both have their midheaven. If you look at the grid at the bottom here, you can look at what they've got lined up next to each other rather than looking at the entire chart. So if we have a look at the midheaven, does it say, it doesn't compare the midheaven here with his and hers. So hers is 22 Sag. Annoyingly, I can't see what his is unless it looks almost exactly the same. Like they've got the same midheaven placement. But yes, he's got, interestingly, a it looks like very similar. What's going on here? Yeah, that's right. That's his chart. So yeah, he's got Sun, Venus. Oh, he's got Sun and Mercury retrograde. Venus and Mercury retrograde straddling his Sun, and he's got Jupiter there as well. But it's interesting to look at their charts on top of each other, because his chart is on top of Billie's. His Mars falls around her descendant, and her Mars is rising. And it looks like his ascendant is also in Pisces, and he has Mars setting. So she's got Mars rising, he's got Mars setting. They both share a Pisces ascendant. And all of his planets kind of fall in her 6th house, like his Sun, his Venus, his Mercury, his Jupiter. And then we've got up here, we've got the Moon and Neptune and Uranus. So really similar. So she's got Moon, Neptune and Uranus conjunction in Aquarius. He's got it in Capricorn. So that's interesting, I think. And also he has Pisces. He has Saturn in Aquarius as well. So his Saturn speaks to her Aquarius planets, and Saturn is the ruler of all of his Capricorn stuff, which sits in her around her 10th and 11th house here. So really interesting that they both share stelliums, and their lunar stelliums. So their Moon, Neptune, and Uranus conjunctions. They all seem to be they're very similar, but they're in different signs, and they're both Saturn ruled signs traditionally as well. So they probably have. It's. I think she's obviously, as a woman or somebody who identifies as a woman, generally, as far as astrology is concerned, it's given the association that as a female, you tend to express yourself through your Venus and your Moon. So she will probably embody that lunar quality in her own chart, which is in Aquarius with Neptune and Neptune and Uranus. So you do see that with Billie actually quite a lot. I think you see her doing a lot of her Uranus, a lot of her Aquarius Moon being really, it changes. She changes her image every now and again, and she's going through this quite public shift between being seen as a little girl, a young girl, into a young woman, into being, going through sort of like a sexual transformation, where we're seeing her blossom and become a sexual being in a sense, which I think that you see it a lot with like the Disney Club people like Britney and Christina Aguilera and who's the other one I'm thinking of? Miley Cyrus. They all have to go through this kind of transformation in a public way, and it's almost like their way of saying, I'm a woman now. It's okay. I'm a woman now and I can do grown-up stuff. It's something that we've seen over the years. Basically, it's quite a common thing, and it's interesting because Billie, you can see her doing, I think, was it the Met Gala in 20, I'm trying to think now if it's 2021 or 20, I think 2021 was the Met Gala when she did the glamour, and she really pushed the boat out, and it was like very 1950s and show-stopping, dreamy Neptunian glamour. And I think she's really able to sort of work with that Neptune, which is the ruler of her ascendant, and also that Uranus, which is the ruler of her moon, and combining the two and creating timeless, glamorous, but also alternative, totally unique. And this is just her image and the way that she expresses herself as a woman, as a female. And then, with Jesse Rutherford, who I don't know an awful lot about, by the way, guys. I only know who he is because he's dating Billie Eilish. Sorry if that's, a shock to some of you. I might know the music, The Neighbourhood, but I don't know it off the top of my head. But he having, his moon in Capricorn, and he also has Neptune and Uranus in Capricorn as well. It describes him as a man in astrology, often the men or people who identify as men would normally probably more associate themselves with their sun or their Mars signs rather than the moon and the Venus. They obviously work with the moon and the Venus. We work with our entire charts, but there's certain things that we can own and certain things that we project. And usually the way that it works is that men project the feminine aspects and females project the masculine aspects of the chart. But obviously it's so much deeper than that these days. And always has been. It's just not as widely accepted that, you know, some people you will talk to. I think I can't remember what the name of the book was, but I listened to a book once, and it was about a woman who said that we all have masculine and feminine aspects to our personalities. It's more of a spectrum, and some people will identify more with feminine attitudes and behavior. And some will identify as more masculine, which is why I suppose you get people like Eddie Izzard, who considers himself to be the opposite of a tomboy. He's like a, you know, quite a feminine man. Whereas I've always been a bit of a tomboy myself. I've always been much more boyish, and I always, like, I still do buy men's clothes and stuff, you know, like it's probably always been a bit easier for women in more modern times to do that kind of thing. But, you know, my point is that the chart, what is described as male and female or masculine and feminine in the chart, it's not cut and dry ownership of each side. Basically, it's, like I said, it's kind of a spectrum. But yes, so if he is the type of guy who owns his moon, which we all experience life through our moon, it's our habits, it's our knee-jerk kind of our most personal emotional nature and that kind of thing. You know, it's our habits, our family, it's our what we comfort eat, you know, that kind of thing. You know, I know what Capricorn moon is like because I have some Capricorn moon friends. It feels different to Aquarius moon unless you're a Saturnian type. But both of these have Aquarius, Uranus and Neptune in there with their stelliums. So I think that they're definitely not going to feel very Saturnian, either of them. Yes, I would say that actually, if he's projecting it, then he's, you know, this describes Billie as being, you know, a professional. You know, a moon in Capricorn is somebody who is, you know, impeccable and has, you know, the ability to scale great heights as far as their image, reputation is concerned, the way that they hold themselves accountable, the standards they hold to themselves. So he obviously has this ability about himself and probably doesn't realize it so much, or perhaps he's connected to that side of himself, but it definitely describes the kind of relationships he has. And this is his love language as well. And Billie's love language is also tied into her moon, Neptune and Uranus. So it kind of looks quite good, actually, that they have this kind of similar planets. The problem is that the planets are channeled differently through the signs, and next door neighbor signs, Capricorn and Aquarius, though both traditionally ruled by Saturn, struggle a bit with you know, their relationship. Aquarius really doesn't care about doing things by the book. They want to do it their own way and dance to the beat of their own drum, whereas Capricorn kind of cares about how things look, how they appear to others. They worry about their image to an extent, you know, and they are aware of their reputation. You know, it's quite, the other thing that's interesting is Capricorn obviously and Saturn are signs of old, like being older and more experienced, and he is definitely being criticized because he's a bit older than Billie Eilish. I know that age ain't nothing but a number, and she is now 20, I think, or 21, and he is just in his 30s, I think. Is it, like, they're like, what's that, 1991, 2001, they're like 10 years apart. You know, a 10-year age gap can be quite, I think when you're in your sort of your middle of your life, it's not such a big gap, but obviously earlier on it's huge, and later on in life it can be big as well. You know, it could be the case of like her being 60 and him being 70, and that is, at that point in your life, it's a bit more noticeable from those kind of points onwards. And having dated somebody older than myself and also somebody younger than myself, your tastes are very different as far as music is concerned. Not necessarily if you're somebody who has an eclectic taste, but just things that, like cultural references, like what you watched as children on TV and the kind of stuff that you kind of talk to your friends about who are of a similar age, that can be lost in an age gap. And it can make one person feel very old and one person feel very young. So it's interesting that his, you know, a lot of his planets fall kind of in her 10th over to her 11th, and also sort of like her 7th and her 6th. I think you would definitely say with a chart where his Mars is on her descendant and her Mars is around his descendant is in his 6th. If you have a look at oh no, it's not. Yes, it is hers, because his ascendant is actually his. Oh, so it's in his 12th. I think that there's definitely a sense of sexual attraction. It's quite obvious. But I think that it's a you know, I think that the thing is with this chart, like the 6th house, I think with the 6th house planets falling into somebody else's 6th, there can be a sense of work involved in the relationship. And in this sense, I think it's very literal because they're both working musicians. So I know that it's a common complaint with celebrity couples that they never find time for each other. And time for somebody of the Capricorn moon is of the essence. His Saturn does fall into her Aquarius stuff. So it probably anchors her a little bit. It's probably defining her quite a lot as a woman. Which is interesting, and it's elevated him to a point that I know who he is now. He's probably I did have a look, and they have very similar amount of, I think, the downloads on Spotify. Let me see if I can just get into Spotify on here. I don't know if I've got it easily accessible, but I did have a little look around at them. What did I search for? Oh yeah, so the Neighbourhood, they have 31.9 million monthly listeners on Spotify, and Billie Eilish has basically 50 million monthly listeners. So they're both quite big artists in their own rights. Obviously Billie's massive, but you know, it definitely, with that kind of listener subscription and that amount of the fact is they're both very well known, and they're probably both going to be working very hard. And the midheaven conjunction as well, I find very interesting. So this is just one way of looking at a synastry chart. I think I'm going to do another episode on looking at the other ways to do relationship charts. It will be kind of like a part 2 to this episode. So if you're listening to this, watching this now, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button. And if you screenshot that you're subscribing, email Stephanie@stelliumastrology.com. That's STEFANIE@stelliumastrology.com. I'm doing the draw for the Magic of Eye Planner. This is the last week that you can subscribe to the channel, and I will be pulling names out of a hat very shortly for that. And you can still subscribe to the channel because I've already lined up the next prize for next year, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It'll make a wonderful you know, centerpiece or gift, but I'll have more information about that next week. And if you're wondering where I was last week, everybody in my house apart from myself got unwell, so I was grateful not to feel ill, but unfortunately because of childcare, I just literally, it was just too much stress for me to record an episode, so I decided to just bow out for another week. Not something I like to do, but unfortunately that's just what happens sometimes. Okay guys, take care. Thanks for tuning in this week, and next week I will follow up with some more synastry charts. Take care. Bye now.